Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi class, welcome to our third and final measurement class. Thank you for your feedback on the second lecture on notebooks. I enjoyed reading your feedback and what you actually had, what you actually have in your notebooks and what you actually recorded. So that's really interesting. So that's really a good read. So I do hope that this class is more than just a class. It's really a sharing session, although it's really one-sided. But I hope my sessions have helped you to actually give you some kind of inspiration or guidance to do things right without much hiccups. So that's the inspiration. Now, talking about hiccups, today we're going to discuss on challenges. All right. So I'm going to start off by sharing with you a story: optimist versus pessimist. So a shoe salesman was sent to a country where no one wore shoes. He arrived there, looked around, and immediately asked his company to send him back home. "I can't sell shoes here," he said. "No one wears them." The next shoe salesman the company sent arrived at the same location. He looked around and sent back a message. "Send 10 times the amount of shoes as usual. This is the best place to sell shoes. No one wears them here, so I can sell them to everyone." So clearly you can see that one is an optimist and one is a pessimist. So a pessimist will see difficulty in every opportunity. On the other hand, the optimist will see opportunity in every difficulty. Now, the question now is, which one are you? So that's a rhetoric question. So let's go on to our discussion. Now, what I have done previously is that in the previous semesters was that I asked students to actually jot down what are the challenges that they face in going through their postgraduate, and so without telling who they are, so they stayed anonymous. They just have to jot down on a piece of paper, so pass it to me. All I need to know is that which field were they from. So I've been collecting, compiling all the challenges faced by students from chemistry, from mathematics, physics, science and technology, geology, and so I managed to actually sum it up. So in essence, so there were shared challenges. So this is really a summary of some of the challenges that your super seniors actually face. Okay, so I'm not here to actually give you the solutions to all. I may have some guidelines or some information on how you can actually do things, based on the challenges, but it's worth actually showing you these challenges because you may be facing these challenges too. And so the question is, the good thing is that you're not the only one who's facing these challenges if you have something like this. But the most important thing is, how do you actually take these challenges as an opportunity to actually turn things around from things being a problem to something as an opportunity, so that you can learn better. So that is the spirit of doing this. So let's start with chemistry. So one of the comments that I received was that they had problem in setting up the experiment. So this is when they are starting something totally new from what they had learned before, and so they find that it's quite challenging to set out the experiment. It may be very intricate, so they bump into some problems. Some of them did not know how to do literature review. Now this is something that you should ask yourself. Do you know how to do a literature review? How do you actually start doing your literature review. Okay, some do not know how to select journals and to publish, and so of course this can be guided. Procrastination. This is really about self-discipline. Understanding concept, theories, and basics is not second nature, so it's quite tough for some of them. Now they realize that when they're doing postgraduate, the demand of multitasking is really demanding. Yeah, the demand is really high. So so they're not used to multitasking. So yeah. So that's a challenge for them. So some bump into a problem. They went into the lab and they are torn in between whether they should do the lab work or should they do their readings, their journals reading. Some actually felt scientifically lonely because there's no one in the lab or in the department who is actually doing the same thing or anything close. So they felt lonely. Financial issues. So many of them are not actually self-sponsoring themselves. So that's quite challenging. Lose focus and motivation. Instrument not working. In the midst of doing the experiment, suddenly the machine doesn't work. So that's really unfortunate. And when they wanted to do some other kinds of sample characterization, the instrument that they wanted was not available. So that's quite costly. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Now, in comparison to the chemistry, the challenges faced by the chemistry students, the geology here looks, they look okay because there are only two problems here. Now, the reason being is that usually for every semester, I don't get so many geology students. So that's the reason. And if I do get geology students, they usually don't have much issue and everything seems to be going on well, as in the first statement here. And the second person just had contaminated labware in comparison to the chemistry friend who were having lots and lots of issues. Now, before we talk about mathematics, so this is just trivia. So this is something that I gave to my husband during our anniversary. I'm a well-known nerd, so instead of giving him a gift, I actually did an Excel heart and give it to him on Valentine. Oh no, not Valentine, on our anniversary. So yeah, that's trivia. Okay. Anyways, so mathematics. So some of the issues is communication with supervisors. So sometimes it's challenging there. It might be a bit complicated. So then you have modeling issues. Procrastination seems to be a shared challenge. Data issues, they have to prove equations and know any equations, and that's a problem. Financial issues, motivation. Now, most of the mathematics students that I had, they did a lot of programming. So they just work with their laptop and they don't need a fixed lab. Now, for some of the students, they're okay. So that means they can go to the cafe, they can go to the library, they can be anywhere and they're fine. But there will be students who actually prefer a fixed lab because that creates the motivation, the environment, a conducive environment for them to do well. So really, this is a matter of taste on this. Then there's career prospect, which is quite surprising for me because I would have imagined that before you embarked into doing your postgrad, you should have a clear idea why you're doing this and what you're going to do next. Okay, and journals not available. The journals that you want were not available, but I think this is something that you could actually figure out, right? How to actually find journals. Right, so now physics, one of the comments that I had was mentor resigning. It turned out that so the mentor was a postdoc, and the postdoc had been helping this postgraduate to set up the experiment, to do this, to do that, and then the postdoc resigned and went back to the country, and so this postgraduate felt that he's hanging and did not know what to do. Now, this is the danger of being too dependent on someone to do your research. When you're doing your postgraduate, you're expected to be independent. Of course, there's discussion. Of course, there is consultation, but the gist of it is for you to actually be in charge of your research, and that's very important. Someone always felt sleepy in the lab due to lack of motivation, financial issues, because as I said, many of them were actually self-sponsoring themselves. Insufficient grant for characterization. Yes, characterization can be very expensive. Some actually were afraid to actually present in the crowd, and this is something that you have to deal with, because you're going to be doing your proposal defense, your candidature defense, your thesis defense. So this is something that you have to work on, and you have to expect this is something expected. You know that this is coming, so what's your preparation for this? Alright, then how to write a paper or thesis. There are problems with writing skills. Need to buy high-end laptop for research, but again, financial issues. Many of the postgraduate students I know are already married with family, and so they have this work, study, family juggling. And so this is something that even myself are going to, even myself I'm going through this. And so this is there is a way to actually work this, and you just have, it's either via discussion with people who are also in the same shoes, and manage your time. It's all about time management. Okay, some felt stressed, maybe due to the challenges. Understanding astronomical phenomenon. This is someone who actually did on astronomy. Insufficient grant for characterization. So this is really repeated. Okay. Students from science and technology studies. So again, in most of my sessions, I didn't have many of them, but the comments that I received were they're not so sure how to do literature review, still working on their writing skills. They are working on still have this time management issues, excuse me, and appointments with two supervisors with different schedules can be challenging. So the presented problems are real. Okay, so yes, you can see this is as real as it can be. So now that I've presented all these issues, I hate to use the word problems. I like to use, because there is a negative connotation when you say it, when you use the word problems. I like to use the word challenges, because when you actually label your problem as challenges, it gives you some kind of hope, some kind of, okay, this is a challenge, so I'm going to challenge myself to overcome this. You're not going to be so down if you call it a problem. So call it challenge. Don't call it issues either. Okay, issues still has this negative connotation. Again, this is psychologically the way how you think can influence the tackling process. So when you take all this as challenges, so it gives you some kind of inspiration to actually overcome this. Now, so as I said that, uh, I'm not here to actually resolve everything, but if, for example, any of these problems that I have presented are something that you are also facing, that it's worth discussing with your supervisor, with your lab mates, with people that you know that you can actually share and get some kind of feedback. You can also email me personally to actually discuss on this further. But there, I can't resolve it, but there are some things that I can actually advise. Okay, now when I look at this the data, so this is where I'm trying to resolve those challenges. Okay, based on those those challenges already discussed. Okay, so the first part is on resources. Now, why do I talk about resources? Because if you are doing your postgraduate studies, whether you are a master's student or a PhD student, my expectation of you, okay, you were an undergraduate before, and then you're now doing your master's, and soon you may be doing your PhD. Now, my expectation is that you must be very resourceful. And if you're not resourceful yet, you have to learn to be resourceful. Being resourceful means that you're not going to be stuck in just one position. Okay, just like the pessimist and the optimist. So it's one has a fixed mindset and the other has this growing mindset, this growth mindset. So you must have this growth mindset that, okay, I can't do it, with A, I have to go to plan B. I can't go with plan B, I must go with plan C. So there is something that you're not stuck, anywhere. You're always finding things, how to resolve things, and finding as many resources. Now, resources, when I talk about resources doesn't have to be only in your institution, in this case in UM. So it doesn't have to be in your department, it doesn't have to be in UM, it can be elsewhere. The world is getting closer, so you have the internet, you have all this tools that you have. So just by using your fingertips, you can get all this information. So please be resourceful. And one of the things that you can be resourceful is by actually, looking at it's close to home, which is not close to home. At home, you can actually be resourceful by first starting at the library. Okay, now one of the things that you actually, some of the challenges actually talk about literature review, right? So we're going to touch, I'm not so sure whether the next slide will have it, so we're going to look at that. So whether you're finding your papers via Web of Science, okay, or SciFinder or Science Direct, okay, the most important thing is to maximize the use of this. Now, the Web of Science, if you're using Web of Science like I do, is a good place to actually analyze the authors, the citations, and citing. And it's a brilliant place to actually do to start your literature review and to also find a suitable journal to actually where to publish your work, in which journal. So it actually has that information. You just have to explore. So I'm going to touch that on a little bit. Okay, if I don't say it now, I'll say it in the next slide. Okay, so you want papers. Okay, aside from this, you can also, if you have friends abroad who has this access, so you can actually get papers uh, from abroad. Okay, so someone felt scientifically lonely in terms of not having anyone in the in the field. So I'm sure many of you have heard of ResearchGate, and there are also many other discussion groups. So ResearchGate is one discussion groups in which the members are actually professors, students, postgraduates, postdocs from all over the world in all fields that you can think of. So if you bump into setting up your experiment and so on, and without actually disclosing confidential information, you can actually ask the question, general question, or some question which needs, a little bit more detail, but as I said, without disclosing confidential information, so that you can actually protect the work that you're going to do. Okay, so and they are very, very quick and very kind in giving suggestion and feedback. So please, so I've used that platform to actually ask question on how to set up an NMR experiment on something which is a little bit tricky because it's using film, and so the feedback that I get is really helpful. So if you have if you know some notable authors in your field, researchers in your field, or papers that you read, why don't you email the authors of the journals to actually ask questions, details on the experiment. The other thing is that you can also, if you're using an instrument, a very sophisticated instrument, high-end instrument, you can contact the engineers of the instrument to actually ask the details of running the experiment, because while most of us are just end user to an instrument, it's also good to actually understand how the instrument actually works, how do you actually fix things, how do you actually set the parameters, what's the best parameters to use, and so on. And do not underestimate the importance of instrument manual. Okay, every machine, every sophisticated machine will come with a manual, so take time to actually read the manual. Although you feel, however thick it is, you're not going to read the whole thing, but the parts which are important to you, so read that so that you can actually understand how the instrument actually works. Because there has been occasion in which in a viva, students are being asked, how does this instrument actually function? So these are things that and from there you can also learn how to actually tweak the parameters that you need to use. Now, I do hope that you realize that our library, has a lot of ebooks that you can get free access to, and you also have textbooks in the library. You can also have Google Scholar, so use this. On top of that, being resourceful is also about knowing the the fundamentals of what you're doing. And even if your work is very applied, it's an applied science, knowing the fundamentals is very important. So you can get that from textbooks, from ebooks, from YouTube, and even OpenCourseWare. OpenCourseWare is excellent. You can, if you feel like going to Harvard and want to learn about physics, you can do that. If you want to go to MIT, you can go to OpenCourseWare MIT. You can go to all these Ivy Leagues, all these good universities all around the world to actually get this free knowledge, so that your understanding on your subject matter will be enhanced. Okay, remember, you are doing your master of science, so you should master the knowledge that you're doing. Okay, so if you're doing PhD, that's even higher, because you should know the philosophy of what you're doing. So if you think of it that way, it becomes really, it's really a challenge, and it is something that you really want to take to really to overcome, so that you can actually master the knowledge, master the field that you're actually embarking. So writing. Okay, so now writing, as I said, is very important. Okay, and so one of the one person actually asked, they do not know where they want to publish. So, and because the ranking can be very important, so you can go to the Simago website to actually know the ranking of the journals that you are interested in. So if you go there and key in, you can actually find out, what is the status, what is the index of the particular journals. Now, now, when you want to write, if you're not used to writing, so no one is born a good writer, but this skill can be learned, can be enhanced, and if you're actually dedicated, you will come out an excellent writer. Okay, if you read, one way you can actually do that, choose your favorite article, the journals that you read, which one actually is something that, the language is so easy to understand, and it's very straightforward, and it's the way it is actually explained is really clear. So you may start from that. Okay, you may find that certain authors, the way they write, um, is to your liking, so you can actually, start reading the way their writing style, and maybe you can adopt some of it. Of course, read anything that is beneficial to your knowledge. It doesn't have to be in your field. Anything, read everything. Be someone who's knowledgeable in many things. Listen to local news or international news, so that you get uh, you have the ability to actually report something based on your knowledge that you learn from hearing the news. Watch documentaries, because documentaries are actually reporting discoveries. So it's like your thesis, you're reporting your discovery, and so that's something worth watching. Now, at some point, you want to make it really, your own. So it's your thesis is like a combination of documentary, documenting your discovery, and at the same time it's a storytelling as well. So the art of writing can be a mix of this. Okay, so it's really something that you can learn. Okay, that's a introduction, that's the body of the research, and that's the ending to this research, and it completes, it's wholesome. So that's the motivation. Okay, now, so this is the website that I mentioned, Simago, where you can actually key in the journals that you're interested, and then it will tell you, right, the ranking, the journal ranking, um, the status of this journal. Okay, so then you can make your decision whether you want to actually publish in that particular journal or not. Now, I let me go back to this slide, because I want to talk about literature review. Okay, now my question, the question that I asked you just now, how do you do your literature review for those who have done? Okay, now a literature review is something that you want to discuss on things that have been done close to your field, and you may want to find loopholes as well. Now, how do you actually start? In first, you have to find papers that's related to your field. Now, let me teach you an easy way to do that. Okay, I will usually do it live in class, so by this one, listen to me very carefully. Okay, when you go to Web of Science, okay, you key in your field of studies. Okay, say it's whatever the topic is. Okay, once you have filled in the search for the topics, so you will have, depending on how new your research field is. Okay, so you may have many what you call journals that's going to the outcome of your research. Okay, but then so you have so many papers. Are you going to read all? Are you going to screen through all? If, for example, there are 2,000 papers, how are you going to screen and filter? Now, remember that if you're doing a review, there is a target. You want to know there's certain information. Now, the first thing I will be interested to know, who is the first person who actually did something on this work. So if I want to find that, I will filter such that I'll find the earliest publication. So there's a key in the search that you can find. Okay, list it according to earliest date, and from there you can see the oldest paper, the earliest paper that's been published. Now, the first paper may not be totally relevant to yours, maybe the second or the third, but you get the idea. You will see the pioneer in your field, and that's very important because you need to know who are the key people in your field, and that's very important. So there's no way that you can be lonely when you do this, because you are knowing people, even though just by reading their names and so on. Okay, it's an exciting what do you call investigation. Okay, then the second thing is that, okay, so you need more information. Now, the other thing that you want to do, and this is being smart. Okay, this is like, people say don't study hard, study smart. So this is where you need to study smart. Okay, doing things smart. Now, find article in your field which has the highest citation. Now, so higher citation meaning that, okay, that this paper is highly cited. Many researchers quoted the work of this particular author or authors. So why is that important? Because it means that, this particular these researchers who have the highest high citations are people who are prolific in this field, who are actually the key people in this field. Okay, and at the same time, as you can see, that most of the time and sometimes this highly cited paper is actually a review paper. So remember that if you have a review articles are usually one of those which has the highest citation. So if you get a review article, that resolves many things. You get all in the review article, you have all the references that is actually related to your field. Okay, and as I said just now, the earliest publication is who starts first. And then the other thing that you can also do, okay, from the review article, you can look at the references, and what are the references that they cite. So from one article, so only from a few articles, you can actually find many other articles which are closely related to your field without you having to actually read the whole list of 2,000 journals one by one, because you get to actually to the core business, to actually find people who are really close to your field. Now, the other thing that you need to do is analysis of that research. Okay, who's who in the field. Okay, when you actually do that, if you go to the part which say analysis, click on that and you find the the analysis done based on the authors, based on the country of publication, the country of the authors, based on the field. So it's being divided to what kind of field. So it will tell you who's who in the field, and that's very important, because every time you see common names, familiar names in a journal, you know that this is the person who is very important in the field, and you want to pay close attention to the work. So please go to Web of Science. Though this is expressed verbally, I hope that makes sense, and I hope that that's helpful. Okay, the interlibrary loan is you can actually get help from the library to actually get journals or books that you can't find in the library, and they will actually help you to do that. Okay, so now learning new skills. When you are doing your postgrad, please learn as much as you can, whether drawing using Corel Draw, no more drawing in PowerPoints and so on. Use a very good apps or tools to actually draw your mechanical drawing. Of course, molecular structure has this chemistry, molecular structure tools. Computing, be very good at some programming. Even if you're not doing programming, maybe learn some computing. The basic of computing. Graphing doesn't have to be only in Excel, so it can be in Sigma plot if you have that access. And of course, work on your presentation skills that you can always learn from, for example, TED Talks, which can be which is very interesting. It's the people in TED Talks are people who are knowledgeable in their field, and at the same time they are very relaxed when they actually present. It's very, very convincing as well. So learning, knowledge, experience, ability, skills, competence, training, growth. So again, this is about your growth mindset. Don't have a fixed mindset, but a growth mindset. Let this time of your life of doing your postgrad be one of the best moments in which you actually grow yourself, in terms of your mindset exponentially. Okay, and you will see that it's really going to transform you in a good way. So that's the motivation. So challenges are really good to actually grow, make you grow. All right, now I have to touch on financial, but there is no I'm not one who can actually resolve this, but many students are actually self-sponsoring themselves, and so this can be challenging times. So although I say here that you can work part-time, but please make it the last option, because your priority is actually your studies. Okay, be committed in completing your studies. Okay, and try to talk to your supervisors on this issue. Okay, if you're Muslim, you can go to Zakat institution or even Islamic bank to actually ask them about the possibility of getting this financial aid in the form of zakat. Now, collaboration sometime with another researcher. This is of course why discussion with your supervisor can actually also help in terms of financial challenges, because when you collaborate with, for example, researchers who have the machine that you need, so you may not have to pay for the cost of characterization. Again, this is something quite complicated, so the best way is actually to discuss with your supervisors. Right. So this is my second last slide. So I know that it's not a bed of roses all the time, but you will get through this. Okay, talk to the people that matters to you, your lab mates, your supervisor, your family, and do not feel that you're alone in this. um, there's always people to talk to. Again, you can always email me and discuss if you have any other challenges than stated in the slides. Now, whenever I feel down or I feel that, this is too much, this is one of my favorite songs by Whitney Houston, One Moment in Time. And this was the song which was played in the Seoul Olympic, I think in 1988 or 98. So it's such an inspirational song, and if you haven't heard it, you can always listen in YouTube, and you'll find that the lyrics are just inspirational, uplifting. So you will, yeah, so the lyrics, as it said, you're more than you thought you could be, and you thought you're something, you can actually be more. So do take the opportunity to listen to the song. Maybe you want to comment whether that song actually uplifts you, in a way. So just maybe this is one way. People have different ways of motivating themselves. I have my own way to motivate myself. I will watch, uplifting movies. I will actually read the Quran. I will actually talk to my loved ones, and I listen to inspirational songs. So I read books and I read things other than my feel, when I feel that I need that moment to sort of like, get back together. So identify what actually motivates you, and if you feel that you're bumping into hurdles, maybe you want to take some time to actually uh, motivate yourself doing something that you like, and then get back to business. Okay, so in spite of everything, trust me, if you do everything right, if you are dedicated, if you're focused and you're determined to do this, nothing is impossible. Everything is going to be possible, and inshallah, you will get that scroll. Okay, so that's all from me, my sharing session. I hope it's been useful. I will post in Spectrum the questions that I want you to answer, probably just one question, which is what are the challenges that you face. Okay, and as usual, you will respond to me via my email, and that will be taken as your attendance for today. So thank you, all the best, and stay safe. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Bye for now.